and without question the most important night of the week is Saturday. One of the shows I commissioned as controller of BBC One was the medical drama Casualty, produced in Bristol. It's still there on Saturday night, now made at the BBC's new drama hub in Cardiff. And that decision to relocate much of the drama output of the BBC was prompted by the return of a television icon.
I really wanted to put some popular drama early on a Saturday evening. There hadn't been a successful show for a long time. Something like New Adventures of Superman was probably the last show that had played quite well there, because it helped you to mix it up. Because when you went from entertainment show to entertainment show to entertainment show, by the time you got to the third show, you were a bit entertainmented out, and drama enabled you to mix it up a bit.
Why did you think Doctor Who could be a success again?
I just remembered Doctor Who as this iconic show from my youth, pretty much hiding behind the sofa, despite the cardboard cutout nature of it.
No, not the Mind Probe.
And had this feeling that it was ripe for reinvention. It was a huge battle to get on the air because BBC Worldwide had the movie rights, and I kept saying, I want to bring Doctor Who back, and kept being told we couldn't because the rights resided with Worldwide.
Lorraine Heggessey wasn't the only one frustrated by the BBC commercial division's grip on the Doctor. As one of the show's executive producers in 2005, Mao Young explains.
I was absolutely outraged that one of the jewels in the crown of the BBC, Doctor Who, this iconic brand, had been given away for it to be made as a movie. Doctor Who isn't a feature film. It's a great, iconic TV series. That's the point of it. It's accessible, and you sit on the sofa with your family and you watch it. And so we had to wait until the rights came back to us. And I think you were absolutely right in killing it off.
Ah, yes, the cancellation. I decided to take Doctor Who off the air in February 1985 simply because it was dated and a shadow of its former self. I won a trophy for that decision, and the Horse's Ass Award, given to me by Doctor Who fans in America, occupies a place of honour in my loo.
The BBC announced today that the Time Lord, who's been on our screens for some 22 years now, will be off the air for 18 months. The Doctor Who Appreciation Society is up in arms. They've called the decision horrifying and staggering.
The controller of BBC One, Michael Grade, made the decision a month before the new series was due to start production.
I don't think we ever cancelled it.
BBC Television's head of drama back in 1985, my then colleague Jonathan Powell.
I do recall the press statement, which went something like that we had decided to put it into a period of further development and it wouldn't be returning for the near future. Whether we actually said, we've cancelled it, I don't know.
Okay.
And it was pretty terrible, Doctor Who, actually, at the time, and it was sinking in the ratings. You kept trying to get rid of it, and we kept resisting you. And then once you tried to get rid of it, and the Doctor Who Association threatened to attack the House of Commons with Daleks.
You will obey all Dalek commands instantly.
And our press people said, no, you better make another series. Because they could see that on the front page of every newspaper. But the truth is, we had nobody who knew what to do with it. We'd just completely run out of creative inspiration as to how you built this show up again. We couldn't have done what the BBC have done so successfully now. And in the reinvention of it was absolutely fantastic, getting Russell Davies and brilliant people in to do it. It was soiled goods at the time, and those kind of people didn't want to do it. And we'd just run out of ideas. No, I think it was a blessed relief.
I was sort of distraught, proper Doctor Who fan, not unaware that it was crashing and burning at that moment.
Co-creator of Sherlock and current showrunner of Doctor Who, Stephen Moffat.
Being a Doctor Who fan is a bit like being a football fan, I imagine, because you're sitting there desperate every Saturday for it to be good. And it had been pretty good when Peter was in it, and then suddenly it really wasn't. And you were going, ooh, it's a bit charmless, it's a bit losing its way. And so when the axe fell that terrible day, Michael, that you put me through, it didn't feel like a surprise. It felt, oh no. But I thought, don't get rid of it. That's like cancelling James Bond because there's been a bad one.
I think, and I speak as someone who watched Doctor Who always, right to the bitter end in 1989 of the regular series, is that I think it simply got old and a bit neglected in the way that we all do.
The man who led the regeneration of Doctor Who on BBC One, writer and executive producer Russell T Davies.
It wasn't fully supported by the BBC, as anything wouldn't be after 41 years. I mean, let's face it, and I speak as someone at the time who was just starting to write and get into television writing and do new stuff myself, and as a writer in that position, you're very keen for old programmes to be elbowed out the way, may I say, because you want to get on. There's a lot of new stuff coming up. So that is a natural process. I think it just naturally faded. I think it always had enough imagination to make me watch it. I always liked it right to the very last episode.
Doctor Who had to be upgraded, but it has, perhaps from my generation more than yours, it's a sort of legendary status. It's got some amazing storytelling in it and some of the best ideas in television. It has to be loved, is the thing.
And its life since has proved what a good idea it is. It simply has not died.
Former BBC controller of drama commissioning, Jane Tranter.
Every show needs to stop and regenerate from time to time. I was incredibly fortunate, I think, in that there was a big period of pause on Doctor Who.
How brave was it to bring him back?
It felt very brave to think about bringing Doctor Who back until the point where Russell T Davies said he wanted to write it. And at that point, it didn't, to me, feel courageous any longer. It just felt like the right thing to do.
Mal Young.
It was a risk. We didn't know it was going to be as successful as it turned out. And it's very easy now to look back and say, oh, yes, we absolutely knew. It was a calculated risk. It was a very expensive risk because we knew it couldn't look like it used to look. It had to come out of the studio. It had to be on location. It had to be for a generation who weren't born the last time the show had been cancelled by your good self. So, we had a lot to live up to.
And in keeping with the sci-fi tradition of time travel, let's jump forward to 2005.
Now, the man who is now chairman of the BBC, Michael Grade, took great pleasure in dropping it from the schedules more than 16 years ago. But last night, Doctor Who's fans had their revenge.
They certainly did. A new version of the classic science fiction programme was shown at a screening in Wales. Among them was our arts correspondent, David Sillito, who's in Cardiff now to tell us all about it. Good morning, David.
When it comes to bringing back Doctor Who, it's not about bringing back one, it is about bringing back many.
Do you want to come with me? Because if you do, then I should warn you. Because if you do, then I should warn you. You're going to see all sorts of things. Ghosts from the past, aliens from the future, the day the Earth died in a ball of flame. It won't be quiet, it won't be safe, and it won't be calm. But I tell you what it will be. The trip of a lifetime.
Doctor Who, Saturdays at 7 on BBC One.
My act of courage was matched only by Lorraine's act of courage. And the big difference for me, that my act of courage was almost immediately mitigated by Russell T Davies having such a brilliant and clear vision for how he wanted his Doctor for the 21st century to be.
Right at the start, when they asked me to do it, I wanted to lay out my vision of Doctor Who.
Russell T Davies again.
Although everyone knows what Doctor Who is, when you actually sit down and look at it, there are many, many versions of Doctor Who, and it can go anywhere and appeal to any sort of audience. So I really wanted to pin that down. So I wrote a 15-page document which set out the ethos, the style and the spirit of it, and also then had 13 episode breakdowns of all the different stories, getting across what I wanted to say, what I wanted it to be, and how I wanted people to receive it, and to make it a series. There was a lot of writing in this document about the optimism of it, and with optimism and fun.
You were useless in there. You'd be dead if it wasn't for me.
Yes, I would. Thank you. Right then, I'll be off. Unless, I don't know, you could come with me. This box isn't just a London Opera, it goes anywhere in the universe, free of charge. What do you think? You could stay here, fill your life with work and food and sleep, or you could go anywhere.
Is it always this dangerous?
Yeah. By the way, did I mention it also travels in time?
But the Doctor's return to BBC One wasn't all plain sailing, as the then channel's controller, Lorraine Hegacy, recalls.
They started saying to me, Lorraine, it's great, we've got Doctor Who, but we can't have the Daleks. So I'm like, what do you mean we can't have the Daleks? Well, the estate won't agree to give us the rights to have the Daleks, and then there was some contractual wrangle and the Daleks were going to cost too much. And I really dug my heels in. I said, I am sorry, but we cannot bring back Doctor Who without the Daleks. We've got to have them. Sort of, I don't care what it costs. just get me the Daleks.
Obey instantly.
I think both Jane and I were incredibly nervous the night it went out and waiting for the overnight ratings the next day, but of course it was a huge success.
Success is good. We've always used to say to me, was it terrifying taking over from Russell because it was such a successful show? And I said, no, that's not terrifying.
Stephen Moffat again.
What's terrifying is taking over a failing show. That's awful. Taking over a successful show is yowza. I like that.
It's a very important show for the BBC generally. It's a big tentpole show for BBC One.
Yeah.
It gets audiences and critical acclaim, which is what you always dream about if you're running BBC One. But also it has huge export value, etc. Does that add pressure?
It adds a sort of pressure, but I mean, because you're so intensely making the show, I mean, I've got that to worry about, which feels a bit theoretical, and I've got how are we going to get 20 Daleks into this room? How are we going to shoot this? Have we run out of money again? We've got all that. That seems so much more crisis driven, and say nice things about the BBC because somebody should. They give us such an amount of freedom that we don't feel that pressure. They really just let us get on with it.
You've got the 50th anniversary of the birth of Doctor Who coming up. Does that weigh heavily on your shoulders? I mean, you're carrying the torch at the moment. Is it getting heavier?
I think it is a concern if you slap the word 50 on a show like Doctor Who, because actually Doctor Who should always feel as if it was just started a couple of years ago. And as far as a huge section of the audience is concerned, that's true. Children think of Christopher Eccleston the way we would think of William Hartnell. That's ancient history for them. But the great thing about Doctor Who is it becomes brand new every few years because there's a new Doctor. They can slap the word 50 around all they like. We've got Matt Smith and we've got Karen Gillan and Arthur Darvill, and any second now we've got Jenna Louise Coleman. They look young and hot and fun, so that overrides feeling of 50, and it means we get to have a party and an excuse to take over television again. I mean, I love all that. Why, if you got into television, would you find that pressuring?